Wendigoon has not read Blood Meridian. That's right. I'm claiming that the man who made a 5-hour-long video on Blood Meridian has not read Blood Meridian. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't read any of the book. How could I? He literally reads parts of it in his video. Parts which I have to imagine he picked at random. Just look at this clip where he starts reading on the second line of a conversation.
And as the hermit is describing his situation, the two begin to have a conversation, beginning with the kid. "I thank you. Lost you way in the dark," said the old man. He stirred the fire.
I can't imagine he would intentionally start his reading on a thank you to what was said a line before. My guess is Wendigoon started there because he assumed dialogue always starts on a new line, an assumption he would not have made had he actually read the book. Now, it's worth noting that Blood Meridian is not an easy read. I once saw a university professor have their perspective on the entire book skewed for having overlooked a single word. One word in over 100,000. That's just the kind of book Blood Meridian is. So I can understand making mistakes, but it's not just that Wendigoon makes a mistake here and there. It's not even that he makes them all over the place, which he does, by the way. It's that there's just no way for someone who has actually read the book to make the kinds of mistakes that Wendigoon does. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a quote from his video.
He runs away from his home in Tennessee, and he doesn't know where he's going, but he just starts heading southwest. For several months, he stays in New Orleans, and while he's there, he periodically gets into fistfights on riverboats and decides to leave after he's shot.
Before we even look at the original text, we can tell this is a bit off. Getting into a fistfight on a riverboat is a strange enough thing to happen once, but periodically. Does Wendigoon not know what that word means? And it only gets worse once we see the original. The first concrete location we're given for the kid is Memphis, which we are told is west of where he started. A year later, he's in St. Louis, which is due north of Memphis, and from there, he travels south down the river to New Orleans, the boat ride taking 42 days. So in just 2 sentences, Wendigoon implies the kid didn't stay anywhere before reaching New Orleans, which isn't true. He gets the directions wrong, saying the kid goes southwest when he actually goes west, then north, then south. He messes up the time span, saying several months even though overall it's been over a year. He says that the kid was on riverboats while in New Orleans when he only took a boat to get there. He says the kid got in fistfights on those riverboats, when the book doesn't mention any fighting until after he's already off the boat. That's 5 mistakes in just 10 seconds. 1 for every 2, which, by the way, isn't even a record. There's a 4-page long scene I had planned to go over in this video that I ended up cutting, since including it would have doubled the runtime. And that's after trimming out most of the less major issues. To give you a taste of just how absurd Wendigoon's account of that scene is, at one point he suggests that a police officer arrested 2 people who were trying to stab each other with knives, not for trying to stab each other with knives, but because they were drunk in public. If that's not ridiculous enough for you, know that Blood Meridian takes place in the Wild West, and, there were no police officers in the Wild West. The only way that Wendigoon could have read the book while messing it up that badly is if he was genuinely illiterate and just had no idea what he was reading, which I don't think is the case, but let's say for the sake of argument that it is. Assume incompetence before intent and all that. Let's go over some mistakes that are more directly to my point. He says a character dies despite the fact that said character does not die, which is a mistake Wendigoon probably made because the part of the book that confirms the character is still alive comes a bit later, presumably after Wendigoon arbitrarily decided to stop reading and just skipped ahead. And can we blame him? He had a video to get out. He didn't have time to waste reading some stupid book. Sure, maybe that book is the subject of said video, but he didn't read it, and the video still got 10 million views. As far as videos go, that's a success. This video sure as hell isn't getting 10 million views. So who's the stupid one here, really? The next mistake is far worse. He describes a character as having facial tattoos and having spent time in prison. What makes this so damning is that the second part is actually sort of right. How could being right be a bad thing, you might ask? Well, it's because it's not explicitly stated in the book, and the only way for someone to know about it is to trace the branded letters HT on the character's forehead to an actual historical punishment for horse theft. Did you notice that I said branded letters and not tattoos like Wendigoon? Perhaps you're starting to see the issue. For Wendigoon to know about the character's criminal history, and he does seem to know, he would have to get the details necessary to find the law in question correct, which he doesn't. And it's highly unlikely he said tattoo by mistake either, seeing as he accidentally included 2 separate takes of him saying tattoo in his video. Oh, and he doesn't even mention that the character's ears have been cut off, which is another part of the same punishment. Now, this could just be a freak coincidence, but if it wasn't, then the only way for him to know about the character's criminal history, given all the details he's flubbed, is if he got the information from somewhere beyond the book itself. Jumping right to the point, I think Wendigoon made his video in the same way I used to write book reports in high school for the books I didn't want to read, by heavily paraphrasing a semi-cohesive smattering of bits pulled from SparkNotes and random articles I found online. Now, the whole heavily paraphrased part makes it difficult to find the original sources, unless they're ones you already happen to be familiar with. And as I generally prefer to read books rather than read about books, I am aware of very little of what's been written on Blood Meridian. But, fortunately for me, Wendigoon took some inspiration from the introduction to his edition of the book, written by Harold Bloom. And as I just so happen to have the same edition, it just so happens to be the only thing about Blood Meridian I've read beyond the book itself. Take a look at these 2 lines describing a character from the book called The Judge. They both start with a comment on the bigness, then the hairlessness, 7 foot tall, albino, and ending with the otherworldliness. If that's not enough for you, the character being described here, the Judge, isn't even an albino. There's at least one scene where the Judge is described as having tan lines, and albinos can't get tanned almost by definition. It's a mistake made by Harold Bloom, a mistake even Wendigoon seems to pick up on somewhat.
Technically, I don't remember any point in the story where McCarthy explicitly says he's albino, but he describes him as very, very pale, and most people interpret his appearance to be that of a 7 foot tall, giant, hulking albino man.
I think it's pretty difficult to deny that Wendigoon's line is just a massaged version of Bloom's. And the fact that he said most people consider it to be the case, with no mention of Bloom, makes it feel like he's trying to hide it. I know it's just one line, but I'm not trying to make any accusations here. My goal is just to show you enough that no one can say I'm being unreasonable when I claim he hasn't read the book, which I think I've managed. Something I don't think I've mentioned yet is that I've only watched the first 30 minutes of Wendigoon's video. That's less than a tenth of the whole thing, and I've only barely scratched the surface of the issues in that tenth alone. I might make another video covering some of the other issues at some point, but I wanted to keep this video fairly short. The only thing I don't feel I've really managed to demonstrate is just how disrespectful Wendigoon's video is towards the original book. Reason being that I'd need to actually get into the book to do that, which would be a lot. But to give you an idea, just imagine I showed an alien who's only ever heard of Earth before a picture of some macaroni art I made as a preschooler and told them it was the Mona Lisa, and that for the rest of that alien's life, that's just what he thought the Mona Lisa was. It's sort of like that. Well, if you've made it this far into the video, then you should probably get off your computer for a bit and maybe read a book or something. At least that's what I'm going to do. Ciao.